on the 19th of May, you said that the UK wants access to all the crime-fighting, law enforcement and criminal justice tools of the EU, but cannot accept the jurisdiction of the ECJ as a precondition for so doing. The security of data flows is central to many sectors, including finance and financial services, healthcare. So is it not that the UK wants all the benefits, but isn't willing to accept the obligations and citizen protections?
No, as David, I think, pointed out earlier, we believe that, so it's a matter for the EU to decide that data adequacy is something that we meet and should enjoy. And on that basis, the data flows to which you just referred would be uninterrupted.
But was the UK not criticised in 2018 for sharing data from the SIS system with US companies? And people's own data is a critical issue. Obviously, a lot of discussion at the moment regarding the COVID app.
Yes, there is. And I can't remember all of the not litigation, but the toing and froing, which was required given the position with the United States. But in essence, we apply EU law in this country through GDPR that should ensure adequacy unless and until there is some rupture with that, and that should be adequate for the reasons that we outline. You are right, of course, that there are broad questions about data standards and data protection, but I think it's fair to say that the UK is a world leader in making the case for the highest possible standards of data protection.
I just would point out that obviously you just said until something like GDPR is changed. That's exactly the concern that people have. Coming to yourself, Mr. Frost, some parts of the draft legal text just seem to have placeholders, including on protected geographical indicators, which is very critical for premium food and drink producers, such as here in Scotland. Now there it suggests that Article 54.2 of the legally binding withdrawal agreement may be changed. So can you tell me what is the Commission view of this? And doesn't it just create more security for businesses and particularly for those who are food and drink producers?
Yeah, so the problem with the withdrawal agreement, which obviously we are committed to, is that it requires us to protect EU GIs in this country in perpetuity, but does not place any such obligation on the EU to protect ours. That's just reality of where we are. Now, that particular article of the withdrawal agreement explicitly envisages that it might be replaced by something else in the future. It says it lasts until replaced. I can't remember the precise words. You know, obviously, we would like to have something that is a bit more balanced and makes sure that our GIs are properly protected. So that is really the approach we're seeking to take, and we're hoping to begin discussions with the EU on this quite soon now.
Obviously, one of the first demands of the US trade papers was to get rid of the protected geographical indicator on Scotch, as in Scotch whisky. So is there not going to be a clash between trying to protect UK protected geographical indicators and pressure from the States, where they actually want to be able to sell their whisky under the title of Scotch?
Well, obviously there's an interrelationship between where we go with the US trade agreement and where we go with the EU trade agreement. But I don't think anybody is suggesting, in fact I'm confident they're not, that we would change existing rules on existing UK geographical indications. And obviously I happen to know about the Scotch whisky one and the debate between Scotch producers and US whisky producers, and I don't think it's likely that we would wish to go to US standards on Scotch whisky.
Mr. Frost, you say quite often that you're asking just for a very standard free trade agreement, but on transport, security, data and financial services, is it not that actually the UK is asking for an unprecedented deal?
Well, just quickly, on transport, on On air transport, no. We are asking for pretty standard stuff in aviation. On land transport, obviously, to some extent, it's unprecedented because there is no real precedent for a country next to the European Union. I mean,
you always say geography. You say geography doesn't matter, but in that it does.
Well, but Canada doesn't have a land border with the EU that the lorry needs to go over. So obviously, in that sense, we have to tailor the text according to the.
So geography is important after all.
Okay.
It is if you need driver.
Thank you.